What is the fifth dimension? This conversation is a part of the launch of the beginner's guide, What is the Fifth Dimension, Unus Mundus, that has happened on May 11th last week. You will find the link in the description. I am here with Monika Bravo. She is a great friend of mine, someone I am very proud to have met. She is a multidisciplinary artist, an evolutionary astrologist, a very curious human being, and she brings to us today a statement of hers that will be the spine of our conversation. That is, I am no longer a seeker of truth, I embody my own perspective. We have had conversations before. We have talked about the bigger picture and shadow work. You can find both of these videos on this channel. They are some of the best videos that I have published, and I thank her for this. Hello, Monika. I can't hear you.
Hi, how are you? I'm so happy to be here. Thank you again for having me here.
Oh, it's an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
I love our talks. Thank you. So I would like to start by saying that in the fifth dimension, we have this very important point of the whole paradigm, of the whole worldview of 5D. That is that spirit is body. In general, we like to think that to access the spirit, we need to go out of this body and this world. In a supposition that this body, the physical body and the material world are inferior things that need to be left behind in order to reach the more elevated regions or landscapes of spirituality. And I thoroughly disagree with that. In my worldview, spirit is body. So when you look at someone's body or at the material reality that you see, you are seeing the spirit, you are seeing a fifth dimensional landscape and reality. And this was what called my attention in your words. When you say, I am no longer a seeker of truth, I embody my own perspective. When you said embody the perspective, I immediately connected the dots like, well, perspective is a very spiritual thing, and she's saying that she embodies it. This is truly a fifth dimensional idea. So I would like to ask you the story of that. How did it happen? Like, let's start from the beginning, because you start by stating something that you were before, that is the seeker of truth. So can you tell us what truth is and what a seeker is, and why did you combine these words?
Okay, so this is a profound question. Thank you. And it will take the same amount of time that I live to answer it correctly, because it's every single moment of my living life I've been questioning since I remember, what am I doing here? Very, very profound inquiry since I was little. I actually thought that everybody had the same line of questions. And I was a little bit disappointed when I was growing up. People were not really looking for the truth. So I was like, oh, okay. But what does truth means to me? It means to be at this moment, what it means is very different what it was when I was seeking it. You know, every time you seek something, or when I was seeking it, I could no longer find it, because I'm in a constant looking for something as opposed to like being present. So since I remember, I'm always trying to find out, what am I doing here as a soul? Not just Monika, but I also question all the time, why was I born in Colombia? Why was I born in that family? Why don't I live there? I mean, like, so many questions. Why am I an artist? So that was always this seeking. I was seeking an answer rather than a truth. But in the answer, I found the truth, which is, you know, I am here to evolve. I am here to find some kind of freedom. And for me, seeking the truth means seeking a very important way to reconnect to who I am in my source, because at the very end, that's where we're all connected. So it was this idea, and obviously I was born in a Catholic environment. I was born in South America in the mid 60s. You know, South America, we had a lot, there's still, I mean, so much turmoil politically, that I was always asking my question, why am I born as a woman in the mid 60s to a family where men have died? there's a lot of encouragement from my family to really tend to what I need in terms of like, do you want to be an artist? Go for it. Would you like to be joyful? So I had encouragement for that, but I did not understand what does it really mean to be born in Colombia? What does it really mean to find that? And when my father dies and I'm 8, I start like linking things and going, wait, I don't have to go to the church. I don't have to answer to that God that is telling me, because my main question when he died is like, why are the nuns telling me that he's in heaven? How do they know 4 hours later that he died? How did he made it? Did he call? I mean, did they get a fax? How did they know? So there I was like, wait, I have to keep on questioning. And because I'm a person that loves to question and I don't give up until I have an answer, I was all the time like asking this. So that's really what led me the path of seeking for that. So I went to philosophy. I went to Nietzsche, I went to Jung, I went to the bookshelves of my father, because he was also, in my imagination, I think that he was also seeking for some sort of truth. So in that way, looking for the absence of my father, like the absence of my father made me find myself, because I was looking for understanding. Where did he go? Why did he leave? I felt very abandoned at the moment, because I really connected with him intellectually, and our sense of humor. We were very connected. I felt that connection when I was little. And so by looking through his books, and wisdom, knowledge, truth is all part of the same archetype. So I was looking for him, and then I found me. And it took me a while. So this didn't happen overnight. So yeah, that's what I was looking for, but I'm no longer.
You mentioned that you found yourself out of a dark situation. What can you say about that? Do you think that dark situations can move us forward in evolutionary terms?
Well, let's talk about dark, but we have to talk about light. We can't talk about dark alone. Light and darkness are the same thing. It's just depending what you're looking at. That's what the perspective is. So if I want to see dark from the dark point of view, I would always, almost feel that I can blame anything that is outside of me, because if something is happening to me, this is dark. So yes, I have many, many opportunities to meet the darkness. Actually, I love the darkness. There's a part of me that always feels that the darker, the merrier. Why? Because I want to dive all the way down or up, wherever I go, and try to find out what is it that this darkness is here to tell me. Because the moment I meet the darkness, I find the light. So there's a lot of courage in my side to try to look for it. And I learned that afterwards with the archetypes and studying Jung and astrology and all this. I understand the meaning of it, but I knew how to do this since I was little. I was always pushing it to just try to meet. And I'm born in a moment where I understand that crisis is giving me always an opportunity. So it's not that I'm calling the crisis, but I'm not afraid of it. Anytime there's a crisis, I stop and I go, let's see where the light is here, because there's always a way. There's always a crack. And it's where to look for that crack that I have become very good at. And I've studied that.
It's interesting that the yin yang is so much in the root of all of the spiritual knowledge of the West, especially after it started to look to the East for wisdom. And despite it is a disc with two sides, and each side of it has the seed of the other side, which is something I really relate to your words about a crack of light in the midst of darkness.
Yes.
But although everybody declares to love that symbol, the action is to try to remove the dark side of the symbol and remain with the light only.
You see, that symbol is the most, I studied with a Taoist teacher for many years. So I will say that in all the seeking of truth, the first one was my first reconnection of wanting to look for somebody that knew more about me. The teacher was when I was very little, and I was watching Kung Fu, the program, and I will see this old Chinese man, and I would say, I'm going to find mine. And I moved, and now I know that the reason why I lived in New York for so long was because that's the place where I found myself, and I found what my path was New York. And I found the language of art and the language of spirituality. It makes sense there. So it was through Taoism, yin and yang, that I understood the whole complexity of what I'm doing here. So I relate very much to that kind of cosmology. That's closer to me than the Western Christian tradition. I'm trying to still make sense of that one because I relate completely to the yin and yang. Because at the yin and yang, that symbol is called Tai Chi. That means the great ultimate. And it means that Before the Tai Chi, there was Wu Ji, and Wu Ji is exactly the same thing as Unus Mundus, or it's exactly what they call the void or emptiness in Buddhism. It doesn't mean that there's nothing there. It means that everything is in it and we are part of it. But when we are embodying our perspective or our experience in this world, we're only seeing from one point of view, which is ours. So that's where we get confused. That we have to, we have to see the light. We only have to be with the light. No, we are light and darkness. We can't be one without the other.
Yes. The whole concept of wholeness, which is another idea that everybody declares to love, wholeness in an obvious way means everything. So how can you reach wholeness if you are trying to eliminate a part of reality? So it's very difficult to accept, probably, given the Christian matrix of our society, that wholeness encompasses everything, including light and darkness.
Well, the interesting thing with the Taoism, going back, is like when you start like reading the Tao, you understand at the very beginning there was nothing, Wuji, and then there's the sky, and then there's the earth. And man is in between humanity. And we're supposed to be the three of them together. There's no one above. One, the yang is coming to the earth, and the earth is receiving the yin. And man, humankind, is there. So when we integrate that understanding of the Trinity that is in every single religion or whatever you want to call it, then you understand that here in this earth, in this realm, in this reality that we're perceiving, until you don't integrate the three, you're done, because you're still in that polarity. So there's no right and wrong. That's an idea. The Buddha said it. When you cling too much, you suffer. When you avert too much, you suffer. And suffering is that parenthesis where we are, because we're so attached to the idea of good and bad, or evil and wrong, or good. So the integration comes when you understand that you're part of that plight, that you are part of it, and you're not different than nature. You're not above nature. You're not below nature. You are nature. You are nature. So that's the most important thing. Also, they talk about the 5 elements. So when you understand the complexity of how the universe is made, you will always see that there's always a polarity. We can't live without polarities. So so that's that. And I also studied with Kabbalah. I had to understand a lot the Western perspective as well to see. And the more I go deep into these studies, the more I understand that there's more connection to it than what I thought.
Yes. From the perspective we are talking about today, it's interesting to remark that wholeness is something that you already reach at the end of 4D. So generally people think, I need to go 5D in order to reach wholeness. No, wholeness is like the floor, the base of. But before we move into that, let's talk about truth. How do you see truth? This is a very controversial idea.
Okay, so truth, in my sense, how I relate to truth is the same as perspective, and it's embodiment. It's the same thing. My truth is my embodiment of my perspective. It's how I see the world, how I validate myself, how I integrate my yin and yang, or my light and dark, how I am a human being that it is aware of its potential. That's my truth. And my truth is never the same as your truth, because you're sitting there, you're looking at things, the conditions that you had growing up were different. We might have certain truths that they align, and sometimes they don't. But your truth is not over mine, and there's no such a thing as absolute truth. And that's because when we cling to an idea, or anything for that matter, that is fixed, we stop understanding that the whole experience that we have is based on time. Time is the 4th D. Without time, there's no 3D, 5D, or anything, because that's the way we're perceiving at this moment, this reality. One is time and the other one is space. So when we understand those two, then we can be wholesome. Now, I like the word wholesomeness a lot to relate to health, because we're talking about health crisis. There's no such a thing as a health crisis. We're just disconnected to being wholesome. When you are wholesome, you're healthy. You don't need to take nothing or put anything. You don't need that. You don't need that. That's something else that is outside of you. So I had a dream last year that said to me, everything I need is in my body. That was so profound because I understood, and that's where I started really understanding the idea of I'm no longer seeking the truth. I'm embodying my own perspective, because when I started acknowledging, recognizing, being aware, and honoring my needs, I understood that that's how everything I need is here. It's not outside of me.
Yes. Uh, one, I think that my view of truth is, if not the same, very much close to yours, because the way I see it, the truth is the wholeness, or every possible truth. You just brought the idea that you have your truth and other people have their truths. So the sum of all these truths, if we can put this word in the plural form, makes
Or
this
perspectives,
true.
or see, because for me, truth and perspective, it's very much aligned. Like in energy wise, it's like, if my truth, it's part of who I am, that means that what I'm seeing, perceiving, and how I've been conditioned is actually my truth, because
Uh-huh.
that's information that I am emanating at this moment. So perspective and truth for me is the same word.
Good, good. Um, well, but I would like to understand a little bit more about why does seeking the truth, why is seeking the truth not the best way to see it?
Oh, but in my experience, I can only speak. So what happened to me in order to understand that I was no longer seeking the truth is when I started to really apply the idea of integration. So when I understood that the polarities were important for me to point, like one thing was pointing me something else to me. So, and I needed to understand a lot integration, because I know I I acquired some recognition that, let's say, my predicament in my life was that I am codependent. So my addiction comes from the idea of feeling needed, to become responsible for other people's needs, and so I can be validated. That was like my trick. When I realized, oh, okay, that's what I'm doing. So that's when I stopped seeking for being validated or being recognized, because that was not my truth. That was something that I was seeking. I was seeking to be seen. I was seeking to be accepted. I was seeking to be applauded and acknowledged. And so that was where the seeking was. But the moment I started integrating me, accepting who I was, honoring my needs, and I'm going to talk so much about the needs, because in order to integrate your truth, you have to acknowledge that your needs are the foremost important thing in this life. If you value your needs, you don't have to sacrifice nothing. You can still be yourself. You can still be there for other people, but you always acknowledge that what you need first is who you are in order to feel safe. When there's safety, there's everything. When there's no safety, there's always compromise, there's fear, people putting stuff in their bodies just because they want to go and take an airplane, which is what's happening right now. It's kind of weird to me that we're all giving away our truth, giving away our limitations, just because we're afraid of not being able to do whatever that is that we want to do. So yeah, so there's a codependency, very important. That was the trick for me. When I realized that I was codependent on the recognition of others, that was my addiction. So I needed to work on that, and I started integrating my relationship. So I became from being codependent to being interdependent,
Mhm,
which is a little bit different.
mhm. Yes, very different. If I understood you correctly, by understanding that you were codependent, this was the insight that triggered the change, right?
Yeah, among other thing, I mean, it's not that I woke up. I mean, I've been working on towards here for a while. And yes, it could have been once my marriage was over in 2015. Like I knew it. Like this was something I knew from very early on, but I didn't know what it was. I felt it, but I didn't know that was it. So it was like lack of boundaries, or seeking the attention of other people, or being responsible for somebody else, not being accountable for my own things, but being accountable for everybody else's. But when I started really studying all this together, and then I was, oh, so all this is happening is because I depend on somebody else's approval. So I was codependent. I could have been depending on smoking something or drinking something or whatever, because addiction can be anything. But no, my addiction was I want to feel needed by somebody else. That was my addiction.
Uh-huh. The way I see it, things that are present in our unconscious minds always manifest in our lives in events. So, did these things manifest themselves in events? Did
Oh my
you,
God.
can
Yes,
you tell a
name it.
story?
Oh my God, sorry. It's like I have a lot. I just don't want to go into a lot of the details because then we can go on for like 5 hours. But yes, so I got so I mean, the main story is this is like for a long time since I'm 18, I always lived with somebody. Like I fell in love. I used to fall in love with somebody that says, "Oh, you're great," and I was like, "June, give open checkbook." I don't know. Like people would say, "You're wonderful," and I was like, "Oh, really?" And I would just completely give it away. And then when I was in the middle of a relationship, I was like, "How am I in this relation right now and I'm not free?" So just understanding my lack of freedom, it took me a while that I was not free, not because they were not allowing me to be free. I gave my freedom and my power away. I was like, take it. So it took me a while and it was very painful for me to be 45 years old and realize that I was the one giving my freedom away. So that's when I made decisions about leaving my marriage and also taking honoring. And I said to myself, until I don't honor myself and my needs, I'm not going to have another relationship. And if that means I'm not going to have any more relationships until the end of my life in this lifetime, it's fine with me. Because that was a compromise I made with myself. I don't want to run away from one problem to become another. Because as you said, the things that we attract, the people we attract are always just like whatever I didn't connect with my last marriage, I'm going to find it in a more ugly form. Believe me, it's never prettier. It's always uglier or situation that is more dark. So I did encounter a lot of darkness in between 2015 and now, like terrible. And a lot of them had to do with lack of self-esteem. I lost all the money, or I lost the ability of thinking that I was able to make money, which is like I always had like to do that I can produce and I can do because I'm a creator, right? I've never been attached to the idea of the wealth because I also start saying to myself that wealth was not compatible with being an artist. But then I had been integrating all that, and I realized that the needs that I have in order to feel safe are things that are very basic but are very important for me. So as long as I supply them to myself, then I become abundant. And I've been saying this lately that abundance is not the money that you have, but it's the relationship you have with your needs. Because maybe what you think is abundant is not abundant for me. So my life is abundant with joy and gracefulness and gratitude because I have everything I need because I'm taking care of it. And the more I take care of it, the more opportunities come. So the last few years have been showers of opportunities in terms of money and opportunities to do work, but I'm not worried about it anymore. There was a moment that I was very worried. In 2017 was my hardest year. 2016 and 17, I was completely broke my heart, broke my wallet, broken. I was broken. I wanted to jump outside of a window. I was broken. And I decided that if I was going to stay, I was going to go back inside and find that power that I had given away. Nobody took it away. I gave it away. It was me who handed it to other people. Yeah. But so basically I made myself responsible.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I made choices. I have moved away from New York. I don't talk to people. I mean, it's not that I left people behind, but I just like I do things that are compatible to my state of being at the moment. So I don't have to see people I don't want to. I don't have to do things that I don't feel like it. That idea in New York that you have to do this, and this and that, that probably was my idea. I don't even know if that was like, I mean, there's not a big thing in New York when you land, they say, these are the 5 things you have to do. But pretty much everybody's doing it. Like everybody's right now following a protocol in order to get somewhere else. I'm not that kind of person, but I was for a while because I was confused. So my whole idea is like, okay, even if it's the most fearful of all things to be alone, I just want to be free. So the compromise is not there anymore. I'm not. Mm-mm.
One thing that calls my attention in your words is that you are developing yourself fast. It's clear how can you understand and have deep insight about reality, about art, about astrology, about Jungian psychology, and yet you also do have difficult situations happening in your life. And I
Mm.
think that this is very important to mention because there is this fantasy going on currently that developed people have no more problems and that their lives are only good.
No,
And
no, no,
this
no, no.
again cancels the possibility of getting in touch with wholeness, because how can you be in wholeness while eliminating all the other stuff?
Listen, it's very important to understand the word incarnated.
Mhm.
Incarnation comes from Latin, and carne means flesh. So we are spirit and flesh. So as long as we're in this body, we will always have to breathe. And time, or the idea of time, is what makes us perceive that this is a reality. That's not true, but this is how we're perceiving it. So as long as I breathe, which is until the day I die, that's not optional. If I stop breathing, I die. So until my last breath, I have to be present. And if I'm present, I am wholesome. And if I'm not present, I'm going to be living somebody else's truth. President, no president, whoever, it doesn't matter. I don't care about anybody else too. So for me, it's very important. The practice is this one. Is like, I set my day with intentions every day. And there I have long-term, mid-term, small-term, little-term, tiny little ones intentions, because every hour I just say, okay, for this next hour, I'm going to do this. So the intention is very much fulfilled with like something that I would like to happen or feel. It's more with a feeling, I want to have like a good time with Cavalier today. We're going to have a wonderful competition. That's my intention. And then I said, how do I achieve that? I have to be attentive. So I cannot be talking to you here and scrolling my thing to see if somebody come in and be distracted. I have to be here listening to you and being present. When I have that attention, then what is going to emerge between the conversation or whatever I'm doing is this presence. That is what really means to be mindful, to be alive, to be wholesome. But that has to happen every single moment. So I cannot say, oh, I arrived, I know it. No, there's always the moment I don't even dare to say these things anymore, because the moment I even feel that I arrived, boom, life comes and goes, and you go, oh yeah, sorry, ouch, I won't say it again, because
Yes.
it has happened to me. No, and the last 4 months, I mean, I think around the time we met, I had a very big thing that happened to me in a group setting. Because, okay, so my thing was I want to be validated. I'm a very independent person, but I want to be validated. But please look at me and acknowledge me. Please recognize me. Please love me. Love me. That was like me, right? Then within groups, I started having a lot of rage coming out, because in groups, it's more difficult to fight for attention.
Yes.
So in groups, and you see me, I'm like, me, I want to talk, I want to talk. So of course, this can be very annoying to everybody else. I can imagine having a Monica in the same talk is like, but what
Not the
does she
case.
want? Yeah, no, it's very intense. I understand that intensity. So the interesting thing was that throughout this first part of the year until like mid-April, I would say end of January, until it was one of the hardest times in my life right now that I acknowledge. But I am so thankful that I have the right people that I have called to be there guiding me, because I've had support. You cannot do anything in this life without support. I swear to God, as much as independent as I am, if you don't have somebody guiding your light, I mean, good luck, because this place is dark. Yeah, and now how it is even darker. I mean, not even with those green lights, you can see, it's very confusing. So I was in this state of despair, because there was a lot of rage coming out from me that I didn't recognize like real from my body, but I felt it was like a rage that came from my ancestors. And I'm talking about deep rage, deep rage. And that was kind of triggered around the end of January. And I knew that I had to go dive deep inside, dark. And it was scary, but I had to do it, because I say, I had these dreams, and I think I mentioned this before, that I was somebody who was like in the Crusades, and I needed to go and kill some other people, something like that. And so what I understood, it was like, until I don't heal that rage, I'm not going to be able to feel wholesome, because that rage is inside of me. So there were so many different things that happened during the last 4 months, where I felt like I was not recognized by people that I trusted, where I felt that people were not really seeing me, and I felt like I was transparent. And that made me even more angry. But this is the difference of what has happened in the years before and now. I have taken the practice of somatic work that made all the change. Soma in Greek is body, but it's the concept of a body that integrates everything. So that when you say psychosomatic practice, you means you're working with your psyche, and you're also working with just the soul part of that wants to evolve, and also with how you're incarnated or embodying that truth that it is to be here as a human being. So there are many practices out there. I've been doing polyvagal. I've been doing another method with somebody that it's doing it with me. It's called Hakomi method. So we have to do a lot of physical practices. And I'm not talking about yoga or Tai Chi. I mean, I'm not saying that they're right or wrong, but this is something that goes really deeper into the awareness of how is it that right now I am in this body and I feel the senses. So we have to talk about the felt sense. Because when you have trauma, and we all traumatized, and the trauma, since we were very little, is encapsulated in our body and is there. And then 30 years later, somebody says something to you that brings you back to that moment, and you respond. Actually, you react to the person. You're not reacting to the person now. You're reacting to that part of yourself that it was completely in shock, or it was in pain, that it was so painful that you encapsulated that and your body contained that. So when you bring the same situation to now and you do the somatic experience, something miraculous happens. It opens up. And then that's when you start embodying your own perspective, because you become aware of that thing that happened to you, that story that you were holding on to when you were 5, is the story of that truth was true then, but now is now. So my perspective is different. And if I really live it again with my felt sense, disappears. So that's the magic of it. And that's what it really understood. My dream, it says everything I need is in my body. I was like, bam.
So it was beyond your comprehension at first, but then it revealed yourself. This is very common in dreams. Before we move to the topic we have been touching already, I would like to leave a message for those who are watching us. That is that I very often see people blame themselves or shame themselves or alike, because they still are having these problems, they still are feeling this pain, they are still having these negative emotions, or bad things still happen to them. This is not going to help you to develop anything, or help you in anything, because development, consciousness development, spiritual development, psychological development, whatever kind of development you want to make, this is not about trying to change the nature of life. Human beings are not being called to change the nature of life, like trying to make life not be this or that way. Development is about you becoming stronger, you developing the capacity to live life as it is. So no need to blame yourself or to feel guilty or ashamed of anything that is happening to you. And please don't use the word still. You are not late for anything. We live in eternity.
Yeah, this is very important to talk about shame and blame and all that energy that for me, that energy, it's fixed. It doesn't give you the opportunity to evolve. When you're shaming yourself, when you're blaming, there's always an aspect of time that is not here, because it's based on somebody's idea of what it should be, right? It's based on something of a society. I've been watching this thing on Netflix that is amazing. Not documentary, it's this series on this Hasidic Jews in Jerusalem. It's a beautiful story about really exactly what's going on. We're taught and we're conditioned to live in a way. When there's one soul in that group that wants to individuate or wants to find his own truth or do what he wants, in this case, this person wants to be an artist, the whole family and the whole setup is going to make everything possible for not allow this person to evolve. It's beautiful. I was like, wow. And also it's amazing. I mean, I'm not going to talk about the politics of Jerusalem, whatever, because that's not what it is, but it is more about the human condition. We all have these opportunities every time, wherever we were born. There's no country that is better than other, and there's no country that doesn't have shadow work. Everybody does. And I'm not better than your country or you're better than me. Yes, there is history. Yes, there was colonization. Yes, I'm aware, but this is not the point. The point is how I'm going to resolve that. It's like, how am I going to see the parts of me that need to be integrated? That's the only way that I can connect to that wholesomeness, so I can connect with you as a one-to-one. So it's very important to know that. But there's another thing I want to say, Fernando, is like, and this was a big help for me in the last 6 months. Understand that everybody points of awareness is different. And they might not be aware in the way that I think awareness is, because this is very personal. So I'm
Yes.
not here trying to convince anybody to do anything. Actually, please do not copy me. I hate when people want to be like me. It's like, please do not. I'll cut the cord and go, go, go. I know I
Yes.
can
You want to be
be,
original.
I am original, but I only want to serve. My only thing is to serve, to give, to inspire other people to be themselves. And I'll be there supporting whoever wants to do that. But I will always be very like this. But yeah, go and do your thing. Do not copy me. It's like I can't. But I'm very firm about that.
So was there any event that brought you the insight, embody my own perspective, or it was the opposite? You had the insight first and then the events came?
Well, I think the whole 2020 was embody my own perspective, it was a whole event. So if we speak from like astrological part, last year my solar return, that means like how the day was, the day of my birthday last year, it was kind of like telling me that the whole year was all about finding my own truth, because I had Uranus and the sun together that day. So the solar return was saying, hey, this is your year where you really have to honor your truth. And I was like, okay. And there were other things that they were happening. So I was okay. So I knew that I had to really allow myself, even if it was scary, I had to allow it. So the more, what I did is like, anytime that I had scary ideas, instead of running away, which is the normal thing, you just go under the bed, I will face them and say, okay, what is it that you have to tell me? Or every time I felt neglect, I will say, let's look at that. So I did something and that started during the pandemic, that I said, I'm going to give myself the time to understand what my dreams are telling me. So I made an action of devoting myself to the understanding what those things meant. And if they took me to the moon, I will go to the moon. If they take me to hell, I will go to hell. So there was no resistance. There was a lot of acceptance and understanding that the voices that I was hearing in my dreams, they were wise voices. They were not cuckoo. I'm not cuckoo. They're like, because every time I follow those voices, I really make things happen. Mm-hmm. So I trust. It's a question of like, I can only trust. Of course, I had people that have been there guiding me along the way. I've not done this alone. No, thank God. And so, but it was, let's say 2020 was the event of my life.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It was the event of going inside and taking advantage of the conditions that the world was giving me to go deep and say, oh, okay, if we're going to die because, this thing is going to kill us, whatever. Okay, I might as well do whatever I want and do it with awareness. And I did it. So I left behind everything that I didn't want to, but it's no longer useful for me at this point. And then say goodbye to it, very Marie Kondo, thank you. You no longer give me joy, goodbye. And then I moved here. And the moment I moved here in August, boom, everything started showing me. So yes, it was an event of, I had to have the courage to leave everything behind. It was courage. I left where it was no longer needed. I only packed things that I needed for this moment in my life.
Wonderful way to summarize it. Wonderful way. Well, let me ask you something. If you now embody our perspective as you are showing us that you do, how is your life now?
No, my life in one word is fantastic. It's, I mean, it's I'm very okay. So first of all, I'm very grateful that I have the life that I have. And I was telling somebody this morning with the session, I said this, it's like, I'm in awe and fully grateful that I chose this moment in time for evolution to be the person that I am. And that sounds grandiose because it is. I am very, very grateful of being born in this time. That doesn't mean that it's not scary, because I can see more and more that there are more people that don't think like me. And there are a lot of people that don't act like I do. And I'm not saying that they're right or wrong. It's not judgment. It's just observation. So there's a part of me that in the next few months is going to move. I'm going to go to Italy for residency, and I'm going to see my life move a little bit of like how comfortable it is. And I will be faced every day more and more with people who think very different than me. And they're probably going to judge me or project their own things. So I'm becoming very strong. And there's something that you said, it was very beautiful about, I don't want to build walls of protection, because if I build the walls of protection, I'm still using the energy to protect. So what I've been doing right now is just allowing this to be open. So if my immune system is wholesome, I can deal with anything, and I will deal with everything in due time. I cannot process that anguish. But yes, we're changing, we're gearing, I mean, and I'm going to say something that is going to be shocking for some people. I don't care. A lot of people think that we're back to normal. That is not true. This is the biggest lie right now. I know
would
it.
say so. I have worked a lot on the new normal. I even have a big article for those who want to study, and a big video for those who want to study on the topic. So every time someone mentions this, I really like to listen to their perspective, please.
Okay, so yeah, I know you have. That's why probably we connect so much so well. Okay, so again, the truth is not one, but from my perspective, what I see and I perceive is that there's been a very fast adaptation to wanting to go back to what is familiar. And I'm going to tell you one thing: familiar is not always the best. Familiar means I don't want to go to a place I don't know. Familiar sometimes means I don't care if they don't treat me right or I don't feel good. It is familiar. It is familiar. At least I know that it is red. I don't want to know if there's any green, right? So a lot of the people that work in the herd mentality are waiting for somebody to tell them where to go. And when the big authority says, okay, we're safe right now, we can go there, and everybody follows, that doesn't mean that it is the truth. It means that they're following something. And as the patriarchy is collapsing, because it is, believe it or not, although it doesn't seem like, because right now we're at the last moment, what we're seeing right now is a big, big mirage. Huge. Huge. And the big divide is here. And I'm not going to go through a lot of details because I don't want to get banned from many things, and I have my own belief systems. But the only thing I'm doing is to stay true to what is important for me, that it is to be wholesome, and it's my truth, and I'm not abiding by anybody's authority, not a single one, neither medical nor political, nor nothing. Because it has to resonate with what is important for me. So I see that there's a lot of urgency and quickness to go back to normal, and what is normal? Safety, familiar. Let's go traveling. Let's do this. Let's do that. What is it that you take? You know, when I read that they're offering, and I'm going to say something here, they're offering French fries and Metro cards in exchange of that thing that you're supposed to put on your arms, I go crazy. Because there's a lot of, I don't want to know as long as I can have the life I had before. I see that a lot. And I'm talking about tons of people. Their choice, not mine. It's your life. I don't care, not mine. So I'm going to defend my position always. And it's going to be, I don't say harder or softer, but it is going to be a situation, as it always been. So far, I'm good. A lot of the people that I know my position. I have not felt yet attacked or anything, but I'm still living in a place that is very safe. So the moment I start moving, I'll have to see how I'm going to be wholesome every day. So I don't, I take that rage or whatever I could feel and just like transfer it into something else. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's
another
huge.
point of connection I see between us is how we like the idea of unus mundus, that in my perspective on 5D, the paradigm of sense, is the climax, the ending point of the development in 5D. Of course, it's already present in the first day in potential, and it grows throughout time. It just achieves the climax at the end. You even have some beautiful artwork to show us here. I don't know if you want to show them before talking to us about your perspective on Unus Mundus, or if you prefer to speak first, because then people can look at the
Okay, I'll speak a little bit. So the interesting thing is that I have all these ideas that they come to me through dreams or meditative states. So yes, I have read Jung, but I don't go by the book. I'm like, so 2 years ago, I was invited to do this. Last year I was invited to do an art commission, public art for the East Boston Police Department. And police right now, when we say the word, is very charged in this country and many countries. It has this density to it. So my idea of proposal was to create a mosaic and then a mobile, like these things, sculptures that they move or you have to move around to see them. because I wanted to create the possibility of allowing the people to understand that the only way to really understand dialogue, dialogos means I can see through your reasoning, is to be able to embody your own. So when you embody your own reasoning, you also know that somebody else is embodying its own reasoning, and therefore you can establish a conversation. Now, real dialogue only happens when the two people are learning, one of them learned something new that didn't know because it needed the other person to show something that it hadn't seen already. So it needed another perspective to be reflected, projected, or bounced in the area. So there's a lot about projections there. Now, I did this work, and it's all these mobiles. I had, in order to do it, you can start showing the images. I created this workshop, and the workshop is called "I Embody My Own Perspective." With joy, I will see who you are. I can see you, and it was an invitation for the people in East Boston to be able to open up and tell how they feel. So we did a whole workshop on somatic experience, the difference between perception. Perception is how I see things. That's not the truth. You know, I can say God is like this or the Virgin is like that. That's a perception. That's not the truth. Now, the second one was, what are my feelings? What are the 5 feelings that we have? Do I even know how I'm feeling? How things make me feel? Because maybe we don't know. Sometimes we have ideas that we need something, but that's not really a feeling. And then the last part is felt sense. How is that feeling in my body? So the workshop, it's about integrating those things. And I did it for the Boston Police Department. This is a workshop that I have developed with in my studio, and we do it. You know, whenever I can have some public art or non-public art, we do this kind of workshops to integrate the idea of the mind and the body. Because without the body, that's the only way you can change your perception is through the body.
Right. Agreed. Well, so while I show your art, let me remind people that Unus Mundus is a Latin expression for the one world, or the world that exists in unity.
Yeah. And
So,
but I was I didn't say a little bit about it because I already responded at the very beginning. It's the same concept as Wuji, which is there's no Wuji. Wuji in Chinese is like emptiness. There's nothing, or the emptiness or the void in the Buddhist tradition. So it's before we're here. So this is just a sketch of one of the mobiles, and it says serve, communion. Those are words. So, and communion, not so much as like the religious one, but how to be together and find something in common so we can serve each other with our own perspective. That's what community is for me. When you are your own person and you meet the other person, you can listen to the other person's needs. You can disagree, you can agree, but you can serve being yourself. So that was the idea. I don't know if we have another one where you can see more stuff. There you can see, there's our sketches, but they're going to be all this mosaic and all these mobiles with words such as courage. Courage is, what you need in your heart to go forward. Then you have another one that says embody perspective, and you have another one that says serve, communion, and there's another one that says dialogos, and I forgot the 4th one. So yeah. So this is coming in Boston at the end of October. So we're producing it in Germany. And it's quite a big thing. So I have integrated all this in my work. So every single piece that I propose and I do, it has all these concepts embedded. I'm not separate from my work. Sometimes people say, how do you make a living? How do you make money? I'm like, well, I do my work. Oh, do you do that for money? I say, yeah, I do everything for money. Don't get me wrong. So it's like, it's part of the thing. So yeah, you can see these images there.
Okay, so while I show the last one, can you please point a direction for those who are watching us? How can they embody their own perspective? How would you lead them that direction?
Well, first of all, I can't lead anybody. They will have to find their own truth. But I could say that in my experience, what it has worked for me is that I found a lot of value in the study of the archetypes from the evolutionary astrology perspective. I have found a lot of value understanding human design. So how is the body receiving all this energy? So I've studied that and I practice it. I also been engaged in studying a lot of Jungian psychology, not to become an analyst or a coach or any of that, but I just want to understand how is it that all these things integrate in my life? Because if I have that integrated, I can serve as whatever I want. And I am an artist, so that's how I'm serving with my own uniqueness. So I will say, if anything, is if you can find a way, and it's not for everybody, but if you have to find, or if you would like to, or if you have the chance to find somebody that can guide you, not to tell you what to do, but it will be there for you supporting your search, that would be the best way. That's how I did it. But I believe that there's some people who don't want to find somebody else, and that's okay too. I know people who say, no, I'll find it my own way. Okay, go ahead. In my case, I found that working with others has served me well, because it has expanded, and like it has created a dialogue and expanded my perception of what is it that I need at the moment. When I have conversations, it's very important. So yeah, it's evolutionary astrology, Jungian shadow work, super important. Somatic work, I have to say that that's for me the key. I did some workshops with Gabo Mate, which is like the person who's really leading all the trauma work right now. And it was until I did not go deep inside that I was able to unlock what I was thinking that I was missing. And it was very profound. And it's all done with the body. So doing just even one exercise that I can share with you right now, it's very simple. Okay. I'm not going to go through the technical parts of it, like how does it work, but it's just something that your eyes are also part of your brain, and your eyes are the beginning of something called the polyvagal nerve, and vagus, and that it means that it's a vagabond, it's like wandering, so it's a very long nerve. And part of our own stresses have to come because we're always tied up there, and even digestion problems and stuff like that. So this is a very simple exercise that I learned, and I'm going to show it to you. It has to do with your eyes. So, I mean, it's ideally good to do it when you're lying down, because then like this, you will understand that you don't have to move your head. But if you lock your hands and you put them like that, and you make sure you don't move your head, you're just going to go and look towards like the left with your eye all the way, and breathe. And you stay there for like 30 seconds at least, or until you feel that you have to yawn. You actually have to pass saliva, or you just like feel like something clicked on you. I know it feels like nothing is happening, but believe me, it does. And you do the same on the other side. That's incredible way to resetting your nervous system. And that's somatic work, which is one of the things. There are many practices, but just going back to little things, or even just right now, I don't know if you're sitting, do you have your feet on the floor, or where are your feet? Okay, so right now you wiggle and just start feeling that you're alive. That's one thing that I do all the time. And it's just every now and then I stop. Remember I said I have intention. So every hour I stop and I say, okay, Monica, what is the intention right now? Okay, let's stretch, let's do this. Let's embody this thing right now. And I just do it, because in the past I used to say, no, I have to finish this. I have to make this phone call. And it was my mind. The mind right now is on vacation. I only ask the dead people. I live with the dead people. I had 2 deadlines the other day, and I had to call everybody was dead, all the saints, everybody. I said, we have a big meeting. I have to finish this tonight, and I have no idea if I have time. I finished it. I don't know how I did it, but I know everybody helped, because I'm that crazy thinking that I have people around, but I needed to be in the flesh.
Yes, well, for me, the crazier the better. Always. So
Yes.
you're always welcome. Well, thank you, Monica, so much. We're coming to an end of our hour of conversation here. For those of you who want to know Monica's work, the link tree, her link tree is already in the description. At a later point, I will add the link for the beginner's guide, what is the fifth dimension, Unus Mundus, that I have mentioned, and also the links for the other videos and conversations and so on that we mentioned here. Okay, thank you very much, Monica,
Thank
and all of you
you.
who have watched.
I'll see you soon. Ciao.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.